must unite what has been set asunder.
We are TFR, Truth Frequency Radio.
I apologize, ladies. The servers were updated today, and Sean had problems, and so we're just going to try to, do the best we can. And most certainly, if you are willing, we'd like to invite you again to do a follow-up, because I know that, we missed a whole segment. But please, let's start with you, Amy, if you would. Can you give us the listening audience, just tell people where they can go to find you, to support your work and the endeavors, projects that you are involved in?
Sure, yeah. I'm on Facebook and YouTube under Amy Denise, and I also have a page on Facebook called Simply Seeking Truth. That's where I just basically focus on finding the truth in this matrix, and it covers so many things. So if anyone's interested in that, they can just check that page out, and then also connect with me in my personal page, Amy Denise. Like I said, I try to do video blogs on YouTube, although I'm not the most consistent on that forum, but I'm probably a lot more active on my personal page, Amy Denise.
Excellent. All right, Karlee?
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to tell both you, Zen and Cathy, just thank you so much for inviting me on here. I'm just so honored and so excited for the show, even though we did have a little bit of technical difficulties. That's okay. And my name is Karlee Sunshine. I go by Karlee Sunshine Midrano on Facebook. That's just my private profile, but I do share a lot of truth on my private profile. I actually admin, I think it's over a dozen Facebook groups now, and most of them are about, yeah, I know. Ow. Most of them are about, most of them are flat earth groups, but some of them delve into a couple different things, but most are flat earth groups. And like I have one that's like a sun tracking and moon tracking group, a moon watching group, things like that. But my baby, as far as the groups are concerned, is the one I created just by myself. I'm the creator admin, and that group is called Flat and Happy. And I know it's a silly name, but
I like it.
I came up with it, and it kind of stuck. And the idea behind it was, coming into something like as big as the flat earth truth, people go through a lot of different emotions, including being very excited about, learning truth and looking at the world differently. And it's like the stages of grief, and then they kind of go through, some people go through angry spurts, and some people go through loneliness and angry at the world because they've been lied to. So the group was kind of like that safe place for people to go, that they can learn more about the truth of Earth, but then also be there for each other for support, and to find happiness through all these lies that we've been told. And that's kind of why I called it Flat and Happy, and it just stuck.
Yeah, no,
I also have, I'm glad. I also have a YouTube channel, and it is also called Karlee Sunshine. And it started out as a content channel, and I still do content videos. Sometimes they're just short little videos, but a lot of it I use my own art, my own creations, and my own photography and videography. And then I also have dove into doing video logs as well. And like Amy, I don't have a set schedule. I kind of go by spontaneity and how I feel. It's a very emotional thing for me when I share something like a video log and my thoughts. And I feel like that's the better way to do it, because then people resonate with how you're feeling. I'm just going to kind of throw this out there. I have a new Skype, if anybody wants to connect with me on there, because I had my last Skype account hacked. So I am now on Skype as Karlee Sunshine FE, capital FE.
Awesome. Patricia?
Hey, thanks, Zen, for having me on, and all of us on. And thank you, Cathy Dunson, too, for organizing everything. And the delay in starting was no problem, because I got to go on my Facebook and update some things and share the fact that we're all on here together. And hi, Karlee and Amy and Cathy. I have a YouTube channel called Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. And I also have a Facebook page, a private one, Patricia Steere, and also one called Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. And Twitter, which is @Miss Steere. And I generally talk about Flat Earth, but the entire journey to get to one of the toppest things on the ladder to truth is flat Earth. I had to climb a whole lot of stairs before I got there. And I talk about all those other stair steps as well, depending on the situation. So anything from Boston bombing to why we are here and who we really are, potentially what our purpose is here while we live on this plane, and even things that are quite controversial, like the Holocaust, and so many things that people don't want to talk about, which is why the channel is called And Other Hot Potatoes. We touch on those things briefly, but not in a way that would be considered offensive to people. More of a wake-up call so that we all can come to the conclusion on our own that things are not as they have been presented.
Excellent. All right, we'll pick it up on the other side. Hold on, ladies, and know that we are greatly honored to have all of you here in fellowship with us as well. We'll be right back, everyone. All right, welcome back, everybody. Cathy, I wanted to give you a chance to give a shout out to the listening audience.
Hi, everybody. So glad we finally made it. And welcome to Karlee, Patricia, and Amy. I'm so excited for this show. And we wanted to say how much we're missing Amber. She couldn't make it. She had technical difficulties, but we're going to look forward to perhaps having her in the future.
Absolutely. And I do want to give her props for the videos, the Star Trail music video and the one on Hello. It was fantastically done. And I've been listening to those all day, and they're really, really well done. And so, yes, we look forward to having her on in fellowship with us as well. But let me go ahead and go back to Amy. And if you would, Amy, give us an idea as to what spurred your awakening and what led you to as far as flat Earth and revelation and truth.
Sure. So whenever I was about 20 years old, that was about 12 years ago, I was living with someone, with my sister, and he was our roommate from college, and he was the one that introduced me to the topic of the moon landing being fake. And when he first said something about it, of course, you know, your knee-jerk reaction is to say, like, what? And then he said, well, do you want to watch a documentary about it? And fortunately, I am the type of person, when someone presents some kind of alternative idea, I'm not going to just turn it down and get angry like some people. I'll say, yeah, show me, like, prove yourself. And so I sat there for about an hour with my sister and him, and he showed us a documentary about the moon landing. And an hour later, I was fully convinced, and I went about my life telling everyone the moon landing was fake and, you know, appearing crazy to the majority, but I didn't care. And so it was only natural that later I would, you know, continue to question NASA. And I noticed in my past, I never got into sci-fi movies. I've never seen Star Trek or Star Wars or any of that, because I just always thought the concept of space and outer space and aliens seemed just dark and weird, and it didn't sit natural with me. And now looking back, it all makes sense, because my family, they all thought the same thing. Like, my dad saw the moon landing live, and he told me that him and his sister laughed and thought it was fake as well. So it's like I was like set up naturally, I think, being free thinker family. And so it was really cool. When I was living in Uruguay, I was a missionary. I was trying to reach the atheist population there because they had a suicide epidemic. And that was the first time I questioned the shape of the earth. And this was a couple years before the flat earth started popping off in the truth movement. But I just remember thinking, they lie about everything. Like, how could I really trust them about this huge thing? Like, are we really living on a spinning ball in space? And I remember thinking the only thing I had to go by on that is just these fake pictures. And it was a really weird moment for me to just think, like, what if the realm in which I thought I lived in is not the way it is? And but then when I started hearing about flat earth, of course I thought, that's weird. And I saw the arguments that they were presenting, and they seemed really compelling, and I couldn't really have anything against it. And so I remember just keeping my mouth shut about it and just kind of watching all of 2015 as more and more of my friends started going in that direction. And I really saw the spiritual behind it, because at the time I was dating a guy and he was making fun of the flat earth to his mom. And I remember making one comment, and all I said was, I can't have an opinion because I haven't looked into it yet. And just me being open and having that one little comment caused him to basically give me the silent treatment. And so I realized that, wow, like people really get upset about this, even though I hadn't even looked into it. And of course, when someone tells you you can't look into something, or you are an idiot for even entertaining the thought, naturally, I want to look into it more, because I see that truth fears no investigation. And if people are going to get that upset, that there is something to it. And so I eventually looked into it in December of 2015, and I watched a 5-minute video called "Why Would They Lie About Flat Earth?" And in 5 minutes, I was convinced. And I just knew from all the other things I had woken up to that this was the almost end all be all, because it connected so much. And I saw that without flat earth, they could continue to deceive humanity into believing that we are from monkeys spinning on a ball and we're insignificant. And obviously the alien agenda deception,
Yes.
and the materialism, and just the source of this heliocentric gaining movement was from a Freemason. And so I just knew that this was the truth. It didn't take much for me. I know some people had to study it for hours upon hours before they were convinced, but like I said, within 5 minutes it just rung true to me. And since then, I have not stopped. It's been full throttle, because like I said, I'm after the atheists, I'm after the truth seekers, the new agers. And now the Father, I praise him for giving me this new tool, because now I can just use this. Because you can sit there and quote scripture to people, but if they don't believe in the Bible or God, it's not going to really stick much. But when you can tell them that they are significant, and that we are the center of the universe, and that we live inside a protected dome firmament, that's when they start seeing, whoa, and they start looking into it. And with observable science and the common sense and all that other stuff, they can see for themselves. And there's no such thing to me as an atheist flat earther. And so it's been a great thing for me as a tool to reach the people. So I'm so thrilled to know this truth. And I just tell people, don't even listen to me. Just pray about it, and humble yourself as a little child and ask him for the truth, because until you're ready to get to that point, your ego won't allow you to receive it anyway.
Right. It certainly forces you to reconsider all things. Karlee?
Wow, Amy, that was really, really awesome. I love hearing that story. So I am going to be 36 next month, and my awakening, as far as not flat earth awakening, but awakening as far as just having that urge to search out truth in this world, which I think is important to understand. When that started in me was when I was 8 years old. I was raised in a Christian family. And at the age of 8 years old, I made the decision to accept Christ as my Savior. And I'll tell you, from that day on, things started to change for me, because I feel like once Satan knows that you're making this decision, sometimes you go under fire. You go under some tribulations and trials.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to warn everyone listening, because this is it's a little bit of a different kind of story, so just kind of bear with me, but I'll share my experience that really started this catalyst. But when I was 8 years old, very soon after I accepted Christ as my Savior, in the middle of the night, I woke up one evening at 8 years old, and I felt a presence outside my window. Now, where I lived on a ranch style house on a basement. So my bedroom was like 2 stories up, and there was no deck, nothing out there. And there was a creature, an entity outside of my bedroom window, which would be the epitome of what people say nowadays is a gray alien. Now, I know a lot of people are very much against the alien agenda right now, but that's not to say that people don't actually still have these experiences. It's just that what they're seeing is not a creature from another planet.
Right.
So this entity, or this experience that I had, it could not get to me, even though in most instances when you hear a story like this, they have absolutely no problem going through walls, going through windows, getting to you no matter what. This thing was stuck on the outside of my window, outside, and it was angry at me, angry that it could not get into me, into my room. I was terrified. I tried to talk or yell out, and I could not. The only thing I could do was say a very simple prayer. And this thing literally could put words or feelings into my head. And I knew that it was angry at me. It was cursing God's name. It was mad it couldn't hurt me. And I had this distinct feeling that I was being allowed to have this experience to teach me something. It wasn't because God wanted me to be in fear or that he wanted me to be hurt, but he wanted me to have this experience so that I would be curious. This creature looked like what everyone says, a little gray alien looks like. At 8 years old, I had really no idea what these were. I also had a presence behind me that I felt like was protecting me, but I could not turn around and see it. Very terrifying experience. Eventually, this thing at the window just disappeared, and I crawled back into my bed, and I surrounded myself by a bunch of stuffed animals because I was very young, and I fell back asleep. From that day forth, and I told my parents about it the next day, and they thought it was kind of crazy, but since then they understand that this really did happen and that it was a terrifying experience. But from that day forward, I started looking into what was this thing that I had a visitation from, because normal society in the world will say, well, it's this alien, and it supports the idea of there being planets and outer space and all these things. But in my head, I knew this thing hated God, it hated me, and it was not from another planet. So as I looked into all this, it just from a very young age, I knew that Earth wasn't what it seemed. So jumping forward, I had a very open mind about a lot of things in life. My dad was in the Navy, and he oftentimes would tell me, things are not what they seem when it comes to what you see on TV, the wars. One of the first kind of things that I researched after the whole alien agenda and what aliens really were, which is an evil entity, a demon, fallen angel. And I know, Zen, this is right up your alley. Mm-hmm. I got into studying things like what really happened at Waco. And then, of course, things like 9/11 happened, the wars happened. Right before I got into Flat Earth, I was studying things like CERN. Jade Helm 15 was going on. I was frequently listening to a radio station called Clyde Lewis's Ground Zero. And they were going to have a guest on there named Crow 777. And I started studying up on Crow 777 before he was on the show. And this was back in February of 2015. And I was just flabbergasted with what this gentleman was researching. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? He did studies on the moon, and he found this crazy anomaly with the moon called the lunar wave. And that just really piqued my interest into questioning what the sun and the moon really were. And how much do I really know about what's going on Earth? Well, around March, I think it was March or April then of 2015, Clyde Lewis also had on Mark Sargent. And it was probably just weeks after he did his Flat Earth Clues video. And he did an interview on there. It was called This Geoid Earth. And it was all about the possibility of the Earth being flat. And I was already into questioning what the sun and the moon really were. And that just got me hooked. Mark Sargent, I looked into his clues, and he had also, I believe, mentioned about Eric Dubé's Atlantean conspiracy, and I looked into that. And I did a bunch of research just off of social media. I didn't even realize that Facebook and all these kinds of things, that there were flat Earth groups on Facebook that I could join. Well, probably in the probably early summer, then I started getting into the social media aspect of it, which was wonderful because all of a sudden there's just all this knowledge outside of me looking into it on my own. And that I kept graduating and taking the next step. I got involved in groups myself so that I could support what I was trying to research. And then I wanted to take the next step and help others. So I started getting into creating groups, and that's how I've accumulated probably a dozen or more. I'd have to really sit down and count down through the ones that are actually admin. Created my own group and started getting into a bunch of other groups. And then I took an even more step. I wanted to be able to help people more, share my thoughts more. I created a content channel, and then just really started getting into coming up with theories, not just making observations and documenting things like what I saw on the sun and the moon. I wanted to really start coming up with theories. And I'd love to have a chance to share some of those theories this evening, but you just let me know if we have enough time, Zen.
Yeah, we'll do that, but we'll let Patricia bring forth her story as well. And then in the next segment, we'll, share further discussion on all of these different issues and topics.
Absolutely.
But yeah, was there anything else that you'd like to bring forth?
No, that pretty much brings us up to the present right now.
Okay, well, we appreciate you. I thought I was busy. Patricia?
Yeah, I look like a completely lazy person in comparison to Karlee and Amy both. And I have heard some of Karlee's story before because I've interviewed her on my show, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes on YouTube. But still, the alien, quote unquote, story still is quite chilling. And I had a alien sort of story happen to me too. And it's not important to discuss right here. Nothing crazy happened. It was a little less frightening than Karlee's, but it did make me think at a very young age, what is this world we live in? This is not what we've been told. And I always had a very curious mind. My dad owned a radio station. His father owned a radio station before that. So I grew up with a father who not only owned a radio station, the local station in town in Kalamazoo, Michigan, WKMI radio. He's since sold it. In fact, my father's dead now. But he also was on the air doing the morning show. And so he was an on-air speaking talent on the show and, also owned the station. So I became interested in radio at a young age and always listened to, at the time, AM radio, which is where you could hear the news talk stuff. And I started listening in the 90s to Art Bell, Coast to Coast show. And on that show, they had lots of things about aliens and Bigfoot and all sorts of paranormal things and questioning all sorts of things going on in the world. And of course, we all know that Art Bell is not interested in the flat earth or that sort of thing. But at the time in my life when I was listening to that, it was quite cutting edge when it came to that. And from listening to Art Bell's show, I started getting into things like Richard C. Hoagland and the Face on Mars and the Secret Space Program and all of that. And I still believed at that time that we had gone to the moon, although I wasn't a NASA fanboy. I didn't really follow NASA at all, but I was looking at the other side of the story and what could be out there. And I was a fan of shows. I grew up watching Star Trek, the original series, and loved all that. So, being older than any of the ladies on the panel, my thoughts on all of this, maybe I'm more brainwashed. I didn't come to the conclusion that we didn't go to the moon until 2015. I'm hanging my head in shame. Flat Earth brought me to that conclusion. Well, actually, no, the other way around. I got to Flat Earth through doing research, which started with looking at 9/11 and playing that falling man over and over and thinking this looks fake and watching the plane, quote unquote, crash into the building and thinking this doesn't look real. So once I got the 9/11 thing under my belt, I went forward and looked at all sorts of other things, including the Federal Reserve Bank. And I watched the movie Zeitgeist that came out in 2007 and then successive movies. Got into, like Karlee was saying, CERN and Waco and Jade Helm, not in any particular order. I'm kind of jumping back and forth. Then, of course, was researching the moon. Came across a Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon documentary and Astronauts Gone Wild. And then from there, suggested video, boom, Mark Sargent Flat Earth Clues. I devoured those and they were being put out as I was devouring them. And right then and there, it just was a light went on in my head and I realized that this place I've been living all of my life, all those things I used to think were the real secrets, they're nothing compared to this one. And Flat Earth has led me to research all sorts of other things. It is pretty close to the top of the ladder from what I can tell when it comes to hidden truths. But from there, you can kind of go up and down the ladder a little bit and learn so much more. And it's one of the most wonderful things that's ever happened in my life making this discovery. I've met so many amazing people, although only, through the internet. And well, that's not true. I've met some people in real life, including Mark Sargent. But it's been a blessing, really. It's opened my mind so much. And it's not a horrible, scary thing like a lot of people think it is. A lot of people are afraid to look into it because their worldview will be turned upside down. To me, it's a good thing to turn lies upside down. And I started my channel in 2015 in August, but it did take me a while from the Flat Earth Clues, which I found in March, to August to make my channel. And I think it was Amy Denise who said she kept her mouth shut, quote unquote, for a while. That's what I did. I kept my mouth shut and watched things on YouTube and was trying to think about, am I being fooled? Am I being brainwashed? Am I in a cult? What's happening to me? Why do I believe these new things? And spend some time staring at the night sky, looking at the moon and asking it, what are you? And then finally, when I was fully convinced that we do live on a plane, that's when I made my channel and started talking to others who had gone through their own private experiences and then public experiences as flat earthers.
Yeah, you are most certainly a natural, Patricia, and your show, I know that a lot of people recognize your work and how you've really interviewed so many people that have been looking into and investigating this as topic and kind of really put a face on the community. And so I know a lot of people appreciate you for having done so. As far as the paradigm of flat Earth, it forces all of us to reassess everything that we thought we knew of reality and of truth. And if they could lie to us about the nature of the place that we live, and also with regard to who we are as human beings, the whole Darwinian evolutionary that we evolved of monkeys and that there are all these Earths and all these planets and everything just came about as random circumstance, all that gets thrown out the window. And then the other aspect of the deception, that the ancient aliens are our creators, this also completely destroys and nullifies that premise. And we know that that's the next aspect of the strong delusion in connection with all of this. But Cathy, let me give you a chance to comment here as well before we go to break. And then when we return, I'd like to ask each of you as to some of the particulars of what it was that set you off to awakening to flat Earth as truth and revelation. Cathy?
I'm really struck by the commonality, the journey that we have all gone through. Patricia, learning about the moon, that we didn't go to the moon in 2015. That was the same journey I took. It was a Rob Skiba show or a Gons Shimura show, something with Bart Sabrell, and seeing that being prepared as well with Code 777, I had been investigating that. So those are things that were preparing the ground. Just this whole journey in truth, the people who have made it to the flat earth revelation and are learning foundational truth about that, the information, really solidly grasping it. These are the women here who are at the forefront of that, who are very interested and are learning to be able to then share with others, to be able to spread it further. And this is why you're going to be all presenters and speakers at the 2017 Flat Earth Conference that's coming up. So it's a community that is growing and that is just a beautiful thing to experience, be a part of, to see it grow, to learn more. I listen to as many of Patricia's shows as I can. I learned so much. And it's a really great thing. I'm looking forward to learning more about Amy and also about Karlee. I know more about Karlee. I've been following her YouTube channel for a while. So that's what I wanted to add. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, no, we appreciate you. And likewise, yes, it's beautiful in the way that we are coming together in community. And that's one of the awesome aspects of the upcoming conference and the buzz about flat Earth, and everybody's getting busy in preparing for the presentation, and also in I'm sure that with each of you, being panel, the individuals that are going to be presenting as far as the different panels, that you are also looking into and investigating and tightening, so to speak, your understanding of all of these things and the different aspects which are connected to it, so as to better present what it is, whatever it is that you want to at the conference. And so it's making all of us, forcing all of us to grow in leaps and bounds when it comes to this topic. And there's still yet so much, because it is still relatively new. There's still so much for us to ask questions about and come to understandings upon. And there's still so much to be learned with regard to this as topic. But once you do understand that there is truth to the earth being a plane and covered over by dome, and all the different things connected to it, there's a lot that we have to consider. And being the mother of all conspiracies, as I said, it forces us all to reconsider all that we thought we knew about the earth, the cosmology, the heliocentrism, because certainly when I look out at going outside of my house and looking out at the flag, and some days there's just completely no wind and it's settled without any movement, it's hard for me to believe that we're moving at 1,037 miles an hour. All right, we'll be right back, everyone. Have we all been held hostage to some secret societal Freemasonic accord, a deception so colossal, so pervasive, only those in the know understand orientation? Do the globalists celebrate such manipulation, flaunting insider privilege, flying flag in front of the United Nations with realistic depiction of azimuthal Earth holding all countries in singular, circular embrace? Welcome back for second hour, everybody. I'm your host, Sin Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed. I have co-host Cathy Dunson with me this evening, and we have as special guests Amy Denise, Karlee Sunshine, and also Patricia Steere. All right, and so I wanted to follow up in this segment with asking some of the specifics of what each of you looked into and how it became obvious that we've been lied to. Amy?
Well, I'm going to kind of piggyback off the alien discussion, because when I was living in Uruguay, I was definitely targeted by a lot of evil. I only met one believer who actually believed in God or Yeshua. In the 15 months I was over there, most of them were all atheists, or they were into black magic or Satanism. And so I was obviously a target in the spiritual realm, and I was definitely targeted by quote unquote aliens. And I realized whenever I had my experience with that they were truly interdimensional. They were not extraterrestrial like we had been lied to and brainwashed through Hollywood and media. And so I started really looking into the scriptures about the topic of creation. And I saw clearly in the beginning that it says the Father created one earth, one sun, one moon, and the stars. And I also realized that the word planet was from the word planete, which literally was translated to wandering stars. And I started looking into what those look like under, real cameras instead of the fake cartoons that NASA put out. And so it all came together. And so I just felt really driven to start defending the word of God, because it just seemed like so many Christians were getting upset with me. And I'm trying to show them clearly with love that the word of God is the one that says the earth is not moving, and yet they want to claim that it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour, and we're just whirling through space at almost 70,000 miles an hour. And I also realized that we'd have to we'd have to trust NASA, which was started by Nazis through Operation Paperclip. So it's like, to me, it's not that hard to make a decision of who you're going to trust, the clear word of God or Nazis with an agenda to deceive us. And so that was a big one for me. And so, and also seeing the pushback and like the demonic manifestations from people who were just driven by ego, and they couldn't fathom or admit that they have been deceived all of their life. And I think that's why Flat Earth is such a blessing to me, is because, like you guys were saying, you meet a lot of people. It's a community. We're not in competition. We're for the truth, and we're seeking truth without an agenda. And so it's really cool to meet the people who have accepted this truth, because in order to receive this beautiful truth, you must be humble. You must admit that you have been wrong for the majority of your life. And many people aren't willing to come to those terms, but really it's such a blessing. And like, I was just in Israel, and I got back last night, and the last night of our trip, one of the guys that was touring the country with me asked me for my YouTube channel, and he added me and quickly glanced at my videos, and he saw, Flat Earth. And so he brought it up at dinner, and he said, I have a question, do you believe the earth is flat? And I just told him straight up, I don't believe it's literally flat. And I, explained to him the model and all that. And he was completely open. And then next thing you know, his brother's wanting to know more, and they're wanting to know pictures of what I think it looks like. And then his parents ask me about it. And suddenly I just have this full audience in the lobby, and I'm explaining Flat Earth to them. And it was so cool because, the people who truly are hungry for the truth will come to you. And even Yeshua, he was silent before the scoffers. And so yes. I know when I can, let it out and tell them everything, and the ones who will receive it or be open, you just kind of have to test the spirits. But if someone comes at me all sideways and they're, making fun of me and, chuckling and interrupting me, I'm just going to be quiet and tell them they need to go to the Father and pray and ask him for the truth, because it's not my job to spoon feed people. They have to do their own research. And so it's just been an awesome journey. And like everyone else has said, it's a positive, quote unquote, conspiracy theory. It's not like Sandy Hook or the Boston bombings or 9/11, where you just can't sleep the same again after learning about that. But this is actually soothing. It's a peaceful feeling. I feel extremely protected. I feel like the Father is right above the firmament, and we're the apple of his eye. He sees everything. And I just feel a safety I never felt before, knowing that we're enclosed and that it's just God, and then there's the enemy, and then there's angels and demons and us, and it's not this crazy trillion galaxy paradigm. So I just hope that anyone listening, if they're new to Flat Earth, just know that this is an amazing and beautiful truth, and it all begins with prayer and being humble and open-minded. And once you look into it, I don't understand how anyone can look into this and not believe in it. So that's just where I'm at with it.
Amen. Yeah, I agree. If you're an honest researcher, and if you have no bias and no judgment, and you go into it with open mind, it's you cannot deny it. There's no measurable curvature. The earth is not moving. And those are two huge things which completely destroy the whole heliocentric paradigm. Karlee?
I think as far as what eventually changed my mind, I can't think back on just the one specific thing, but it wasn't something that I fought for very long when it came to the flat earth truth. But I know that my observations have been just very like grounded and organic. Like to me, it just makes sense. When I go outside, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I do photography, just amateur photography on the side. And when I go outside and I take photos of the sun and the moon, to me, observably, they look the same size. Mm-hmm. But why would I, trust NASA and these other people telling me that these absurd distances that they are? When I look at the moon, it does not look like it's 200 and on average 40,000 miles away. That doesn't make sense to me. If we just stop and look at it in a common sense kind of way, stop listening to what other people tell you. That is not what I, naturally observe. And like you said at the beginning of this section, when the wind moves, or when the wind isn't moving and we are just still, we're not moving. The earth does not feel like it's moving. We don't get that sense. I did a simple video, and I said it was something about flat earth. There is no Coriolis effect. And all it was just me videotaping a flock of birds flying through the air and changing on a whim and just staying together and going all over the place and put it to music. And to me, that's just a simple observation that those birds, I can't see how those birds would be able to fly, change direction, and keep their balance and their orientation if the earth was spinning 1,000 miles per hour. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, it's just been those simple observations. When you look out over the water, like I've climbed, when I go to the ocean, my fiance and I like to climb the lighthouses that are, if there's a lighthouse there, we like to go there and climb and look out over the water. And you can't look out over that flat level water and think that there's any measurable curve. It's not there. And I remember, I think it was back in September 2015 when I was really getting into all the nitty gritty of all this and really researching and doing all these observations on my own, that I sat outside and I watched the blood moon lunar eclipse. And even though I'd already considered myself a flat earther, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that Earth was not moving. It was a flat stationary plane. It was these kinds of experiences that just really set my heart into it. I got very emotional. I sat out there for 3 hours and watched this blood moon eclipse happen, and I cried. And I had some kind of, it was almost like a spiritual experience. I was out there just sitting on the ground for 3 hours, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm upset that we've been lied to, but I'm so happy that I'm learning the truth, and I'm learning this craft well enough to help teach others. Now, I'm not saying that to be vain, but I feel like if you take on that responsibility and you take the next step, then like you were saying earlier, we want to be prepared to be able to go to things like this conference that is coming up and be able to explain to people, what we know about Earth. Like
Right.
just what Amy was talking about, being able to share this. And that's such a good feeling. Just the other day, my fiance's son came over. Now he's older, he's 21. And I have not mentioned anything to him about the fact that I know that the Earth is flat, stationary plane. But he heard it through the grapevine, through one of his friends. He saw something that I was put it on Facebook, and he came to me and he said, "What is this that you are posting on Facebook about the Earth being flat?" And he's very open-minded. I'm so glad that my fiance raised a very open-minded son. And I sat him down and I said, "If you really want to know," I said, "I will take the time to explain it to you." And I was able to talk to him for probably a good hour, maybe even more, and just hash it all out. And it felt really good to have my thoughts organized like that and be able to share that with him. It's a really good feeling to have come all this way. And I love all of us being able to go back to thinking about what started it for us and the emotions we went through and when we knew, and then all the way up to this point to where we're getting to this stage in our life where we're going to be able to share it. And when it comes to the conference, who knows how many people we're actually going to be sharing this with, especially if it's going to be covered on the media. It's just very exciting times for us. But that would be, like, in a nutshell, for me, it's just been very organic observations for me, especially with sun, moon, no curvature, and no motion with the Earth, that really set my mind to knowing that the Earth is flat and stationary.
Excellent. We're going to come back to you in just a few to get you to talk about your idea as far as the
Sure.
Earth being. Yeah. All right. But
Sure.
Patricia, if you would, please.
Well, Karlee, what you were saying about just sitting down and crying, I remember that happening to me as well. And I can almost get in a quiet mood and get back to that feeling I had when I first realized that we are not living on a globe and that we are something special.
Yes.
Now, my beliefs might differ from others here on that panel because I'm not really coming to it from a Christian perspective. I'm not coming to it from an atheist perspective or a Satanist perspective either. I'm just coming to it from a position of love. And some people might say my position is wishy-washy, but I am representative of many who are here in Flat Earth. And there's a bunch of people who don't believe that there's a dome either. I don't have proof of a dome, although some things point toward a dome. But even if it's an endless plane, you know what? Since we don't really know because we've never actually touched it, if it's an endless plane, the way things are so amazing and mysterious. It could be an endless plane enclosed by a dome. And I know that makes no sense because an endless thing can't be enclosed. But look around us. This place is amazing. You never know really what's going on. My mind is open to all sorts of possibilities, except the possibilities that NASA tells us. My mind is shut down to those forever, never going back. That old once you go flat, you don't go back is quite true.
Right.
And it's not true for some people. I found a few people coming up with YouTube videos saying, yeah, I was a flat earther and I found out it was all lies. They were not flat earthers.
Right.
They're saying that now. And then they've changed from flat earth and they're attempting to troll flat earth and get hits for their channel. It's as simple as airplane flights. I remember very young thinking, flying with my parents, that we're going somewhere and we're going with the spin of the earth, so we should get there faster. And when we come back, it should take slower. And my mom said that's not how it works. And I mean, they tell us that we live on something that's the circumference of about 25,000 miles, give or take. And that means with the curvature mathematics that we have, which would be 8 inches per mile squared. And then once you get far out, farther, it does change a bit. But let's just go with short distances. The plane would have to nose down. Now, many people say, no, that's not true. The plane flies relative to the ground. And you try talking to people, even pilots, and I've flown recently, and I've, if I have a moment to ask the pilot as I'm getting in or getting out, I will, and they just smile. And I wonder, do they know? I think that 99% of them do not know. Their answer probably would be gravity. They're so used to doing their job that they're not really looking. They've never looked outside and thought, is that flat or is that a ball? How come I can't see that it's a ball? But as time goes by, some of those pilots are going to be looking at a YouTube video of something, and then a suggested video of something else will pop up, and they might end up being right here with us one day, questioning things. That's how it happens. Being able to explain flat Earth to people is one thing, and it's a lot harder than you think. Because if you found out about flat Earth by watching videos and taking time to digest it and then looking at the sky and then looking across water, those are all actions. But when you're just sitting there one-on-one with somebody trying to explain things and then, pulling up potential maps, because we don't have a true map of the Earth, it is a lot harder. It's definitely tricky. And I admire people who are able to do that. But nobody is going to believe the Earth is flat until they're ready. They have to be ready. Part of being ready is to have that open heart, to be able to let go of that sort of materialism that we all have, where we are the center of everything and all that's important is mankind and animals aren't important and other people who aren't the same religion or race as us are not that important and all that matters is making money. It's people that it has to be a person who's open-minded. It isn't just going to throw up walls to everything you're going to say. So before you talk to somebody about flat Earth, you've got to test the waters with potentially other smaller conspiracies to see where they are first.
I agree. I find that, if they're not going to be open and they're going to be militant and just controversial in opposing your viewpoints and just arrogant in fighting you every turn of the way, it's not worth it. And that really, we just need to honor people for where they are. And if they come to the point where they are willing to listen, to then plant the seeds and, as you said, give them, little bits of pieces here and there just to see where they are and if they are willing and open to actually listening and hearing what you're going to be talking about, because otherwise it's a waste of time and all you're going to do is drive people away from you and have them really think that you're lunatic and crazy anyways. But Cathy, I want to also pose the same question to you as well.
Well, I do think, okay, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Just about, some of the initial things which brought you to Flat Earth Awakening and to understanding the truth of this revelation.
Well, looking at the people who react so badly, I reflect on, how I came at it and felt about it. And like I said before, a lot of the ground being fertile just through the moon, learning about the moon and, other truth stuff, but really learning about the moon hoax. And I wasn't resistant to any of that. And then following Rob Skiba, who we all know and love. And he was really struggling with this. And I dove in right away after watching Mark's Clues. We kind of had this reaction like, oh my gosh, not this too. But we were willing to look at it. And the person I was working with on the radio at that time was not having any of it. And so don't bring that to his attention because he's a science guy, right? Yes. So anyway, I started with Mark's Clues, and then I just started following along with Rob Skiba, and it was so sincere and systematic the way he did that, and still does today. I learned so much, and I was really looking forward. I set it aside for my Fridays just to go through one of his blogs and with a video with him, and so I still send people there today when I try and share with them a good way to begin. And most people are really reluctant anyway, because I have a pretty big Facebook page, and probably 99% of them, when they say something and I try to reply and comment, they don't want to hear it. So it's like the gals are saying, they have to be ready. The thing I think is real interesting is that we aren't angry about it. You would think we would be because of the enormity of this lie, but knowing this truth, and for me and my faith, and with so much that you've brought out, Zen, in your books, that, God is right there, and his throne is right above, and it all makes sense. It all ties together. And I learn more and more. I'm never disappointed. There is nothing that deters me from where I am headed on this path, learning this truth that is the truth and always has been. It's just been hidden from us. So, maybe one day we will get angry. I kind of doubt it. We're just so happy finding this. I do feel bad when I see the kids in school. Of course, they're being taught so many bad things, but this, when they trot out the heliocentric model and showing, the planet system and all that, but I don't deal with that really, but when I see it, I don't like it. Otherwise, this has been a glorious journey. I'm really looking forward to the conference and to hearing all of them speak and what they're going to say. It's going to be a really exciting time. I heard Mark on The Secret Show with Patricia say nobody's going to sleep. Everybody's going to be having so much fun staying up, and we're going to miss you sorely, Zen. But that's fine. I understand.
Next time. Right. Okay, well, I want to, for the time that we have remaining in this segment, I want to get Karlee to speak about her idea as to the Earth being like a aqua filter. If you would, Karlee.
Sure, I can do that. I don't know how many months ago it was. There was a gentleman named Robert Shortman who had been a little bit more active than he is right now, although he's still into flat Earth. And he was doing a lot of interviews because he was a plumber in Antarctica for 13 months. And as I listened to some of the things that he was explaining, one thing really struck me. He talked about the ice wall being very, very pure, clear, clean water. It's not salt water. And it kind of got my gears moving. I've worked with terrariums before. I've built them just as from an artist's point of view. I used to build them as gifts. And I noticed that when you build a terrarium, people say that it rains inside of a terrarium because what happens is, like if you stick it in the sun and it's got moisture in it, the difference between the cool ground and the moisture inside of a terrarium and the sun warming that up, it creates condensation on the inside wall of that glass terrarium. So I was looking at Earth kind of that way, like a giant terrarium. In fact, I like to call it terrarium Earth. So my idea is that, and the sun and the moon, as they cycle, they're on their circuit. The sun is the warm light. It creates heat. And the moon is cooling, which we know from other people doing experiments that the moon creates its own light and it's a cooling light. We know that when we take hot and cold together and you have moisture involved, that it creates condensation. Now, my theory is that when the condensation accumulates on the inside of our firmament or our dome walls, eventually, when it gathers enough weight, it then would naturally drip down the walls on the inside walls of this firmament or dome, which is exactly what happens when you look at a terrarium. When that water runs down the side of the walls, it then gathers possibly on the edge, which is, well, I don't want to say edge because people scoff at that, but on the outer ring, which is Antarctica, which is the ice wall. This makes sense to me that the outer ring is going to stay a little cooler because the sun, when it's traveling on the Tropic of Capricorn, isn't reaching quite that far. So that outer ring is staying very cool. So when this pure water, when water is evaporated into the air and it turns into condensation, it literally becomes distilled water. It's as pure, clear, clean water as you're going to get. So my theory is that Earth is basically a giant water distiller, and that's how we get this pure, clean, fresh water that freezes on the outer ring that holds the waters in on our flat plane. Now, part of that theory of mine as well, I got to thinking about what this water looks like when it drips down the firmament walls. And again, this is another one of those just organic observations. I was literally at a music fest one day and it had stormed, and I watched rainwater run down canopies and down tents. And when it accumulated, it would run down a tent and it was catching a little bit of light from the sun. It looked like a shooting star. And I got to thinking that maybe, what we see as shooting stars, even when there's a lot of them, they're always coming from a higher elevation and falling down. We never see shooting stars go from a lower elevation and shoot up across the sky. What if what we're seeing when we see these shooting stars in these meteor showers is literally just that manifesting light? It's just the water accumulating on the dome, and when it gets so heavy, it runs down the side, and it's either catching a twinkling of light from the sun, or we know, and I know from independent studies, that when water, if a frequency is put to water, if water is affected by a frequency tone, you can actually literally make that water droplet levitate, and it will also create light, like a shooting star.
Right. The other thing that I think is fascinating is that the condensation creates fresh water and separates the salt from it. All right, we'll be right back, everyone. The grand deception as matrix is all-encompassing, consuming, and broad-reaching, yet so covert in imposition, it is largely unnoticed by those born into its nurturance. In this segment, I'd like to ask each of you with regard to what you will be speaking upon, to give everybody an idea as to the topic you'll be addressing at the Flat Earth Conference. And also, if you will, please restate your the places where people can go to support your work, your YouTube, Facebook, anything that you'd like to share with regard to that, websites, and where people can go to listen to your blogs or radio broadcasts, anything of that nature. Amy, we'll start with you.
Sure. So my focus is going to be on the spiritual and biblical side of Flat Earth or enclosed creation, because like I said, I just believe that this topic really helps us feel really nice and close to our Creator. In my past, I struggled with a lot of depression, anxiety, OCD, addiction, all kinds of issues on and off throughout my life, feeling insignificant, feeling rejected, going back way to just childhood things. And so when you come into the truth about flat earth, it just brings it all together. It's like a healing, soothing truth because you realize that the Father is so close. He's not far away. And so I'm really after those atheists and those people who just feel like they've bought into that narrative that they're, from primordial soup and from, a monkey and this and that, and that God is nowhere and he's just kind of abandoned his creation. And it's just not the case, because once you come into this truth, you realize that you are so important and his eye is upon all of his children. Not even a sparrow falls to the ground apart from him allowing it. And he loves us so much more. He knows how many hairs we have on our head. And like the only way that you can really feel that to me is embracing the full truth of what the Bible says about our home. And I just find it so interesting that he literally starts out the whole entire book of the Bible with this truth. And so many people miss it because they've been brainwashed, and it takes 3 generations to fully brainwash a population, and we're going on 5 with the heliocentric hoax. And so I just really want to bring this topic into the community of truth seekers and also believers, because I've gotten the most pushback and the most attacks from quote unquote Christians. They're always rebuking me. I just was reading my mom a long message someone just sent me on my Simply Seeking Truth page, and he's basically telling me that I'm going to be held accountable for being a heretic and a false teacher and being obsessed with this doctrine of demons. And what I tell these people is they need to be careful, because they're calling God's word evil, and they're going to be the ones held accountable for trusting, a Nazi organization over the clear word of God. And so that's what I feel like I'm focused on. And I just really look forward to presenting this and also meeting everyone. And I'm definitely going to be so giddy. It's going to be hard to sleep because there's just going to be so many free thinkers, in one room, and it's going to be quite the experience.
Absolutely. Would you give out your website and
Yes.
contact, blog, all that again?
Yes, my Facebook is Amy Denise, and also I have another Facebook page called Simply Seeking Truth, and then my YouTube channel is Amy Denise.
Awesome. I know in studying this for myself that it restored an intimacy and a connection to not only the creator but the creation, and understanding how the cosmology truly works, and that it is the luminaries, the heavenly luminaries, which are moving in circle and circuit above the face of the earth, as we see represented in all of the time-lapse photography, the videos that are streamed together, which show all of the stars moving in circle around Polaris. And that Polaris is the one fixed star which, not moving, shows to us exactly where the throne room of the Most High God is situated, because he is situated on the very center of the vaulted dome, as I write about in my 10th book, The Firmament Vaulted Dome of the Earth. Karlee?
Well, as far as what I would like to cover during the conference, it's all contingent on, how much time we have. And I know it's going to be, very candid once we're up there. But I'm going to be coming at this from a representative of flat earth in social media, because I run and help with so many groups on Facebook. I want to give the audience and the media, whoever's there watching, this sense that there is a place that they can go if they want to learn, share experiments, share observations and their documentation, and learn from others and the work that they've done, and find a peace about this. And they have a very safe place to do that. Now, in some of the groups, they're public, so they're going to be more like debate groups, and there's a place and a time for that as well. But we need I feel like it's very important to have that safe kind of a room where people can go and they can learn their craft and they can become knowledgeable, so they can go out then into the world and be prepared to share this truth with friends and family and strangers, or take that next step. I had other people there for me when I needed to take the next step and the next step and become more brave and stretch myself and become uncomfortable and get out there and do more. And I want to be that person for other people, and I want to have groups prepared to help groom people for that as well. Because, sometimes I don't know if we understand fully how big this is going to get. I mean, whether everyone likes it or not, I believe this is going to become very mainstream, and the world is going to change, and there's going to need to be people in place to help reteach people. School books are going to have to be rewritten. School is going to have to change. Things are going to be very different. But I want to come at this from kind of that point of view and being able to represent the social media aspect of it, because some people have a really bad experience with it on social media, and I don't
Mhm.
I don't appreciate that. I don't think that's okay. And also, if I have a chance, I would love to go over some of these theories that I've come up with on my own, like the one I shared before the break. And I have so many other ones floating around in my head that I've done videos on as well. And if there's a chance that I can throw that out there too, give people a different aspect or a different look on the world, then I hope to be able to share that as well. Um, my private Facebook profile is Karlee Sunshine, but it is public. So there are all kinds of stuff on there now that you can look into and share. My YouTube channel is, I'm sorry, my Facebook is Karlee Sunshine Midrano. My YouTube channel is just Karlee Sunshine. And my main Facebook group is called Flat and Happy.
Awesome. Also, just so each of you know, we would love for you each individually to come and join us so that you can share in fullness over the course of a 2-hour show your individual testimony. So know that, we want to extend that invitation to each of you in that regard as well. But Patricia?
My focus within Flat Earth has really been on the community. And that is because when I was looking into Flat Earth myself, I hadn't spoken with any content providers at that point. I was just watching videos. I didn't even have a channel. But I was wondering who these people are and where they came from and what thoughts brought them to the conclusions that they now have. And, basic dumb things like what do they do in their free time and that sort of thing. What makes them tick? If they were my next door neighbor, would we have the same taste in movies? Just this sort of thing. And nobody was really doing that then. And that's why I decided to do a community show on YouTube called Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, introducing to the community fellow community members and getting their backstory and what brought them to the conclusion of Flat Earth. And I've spoken with people who have all sorts of different views, from the dome to the endless plane and everything in between, and came from all sorts of different backgrounds. And I will continue doing interview shows. So when it comes to FEIC 2017 in Raleigh, North Carolina in November, what I'm going to do, two things. I'm going to be on a panel with a couple of different YouTuber guests who will be there. And we're just going to probably be answering questions and talking with the people who are assembled in the audience. There's really no difference between those of us who are speakers and those who are in the audience. We're all kind of on the same page, but that's how it's going to work. And the other thing I will do is the second annual Flatty Awards. It's something I started on my channel last year, which was at the same time the Grammy Awards came out. I wanted to do something involving the community as a yearly thing and give awards to video makers, all the categories that one could think of. And I did it last year, and it was very successful, and was going to be doing it this year in February. But then Robbie Davidson and Brian Mullen got a hold of me, and they said, hey, can you do the Flatty Awards? Can you put it off? Don't do it in February, but do it in November and do it live with Mark Sargent. And so we are going to do that as the closing event of the 2017 FEIC conference. And that's what we're going to do with, may I have the envelope, please, and that sort of thing. And it will not be awards just for those who are assembled. It will be just content providers, really anybody who has done stellar work or maybe not so good work. Maybe we'll have a troll award. I'm not sure. But it's going to be fun, and it will be including everybody in the community. And the whole convention, I said the convention again, darn, conference is going to be an event where perhaps there won't be new earth-shattering, literally, information shared. unless Karlee says the theory she just shared with us here, because that's pretty earth-shattering. It might just be more bonding. And as Amy was saying, and Karlee, it's going to be a time when we won't want to sleep. We won't want to waste a moment of precious time being there with people of like mind and being able to speak freely without having people look at you with the side eye. Are you crazy? There will be that level playing field for all of us where we at least know we have gone through the conspiracy ladder and gotten rid of a lot of those things, and we're not believers that Sandy Hook was a real thing and children died and all of these things that we've been brainwashed with. We'll all be there unbrainwashed, wanting to get even more unbrainwashed and doing it together. It's going to be so exciting. And people can still get tickets. The VIP sold out right away. And people have asked questions about it and said, oh, you guys are all there and you're getting paid. You're making the money. And none of the people who are speaking, none of us here, none of the people speaking who are not here are getting paid to speak. We're paying for our own hotel, our own food, and our own transport, airfare or driving. We're doing it and using our own time because we want to, for the love of it. However, the conference is eventually to make money, whether or not it makes money this year or breaks even or loses a little. Robbie D and Brian Mullen, they've had to put deposits down on things, and they'll lose deposits. The hotel is demanding a certain amount of rooms to be sold, and if not, the conference money has to pay for it. So it is being run as a business. It's not to make crazy money. It's to be able to make an even better one next year after we get through making this really great starter conference. So anybody have any questions about that? It's been discussed many times on different videos on my channel. And my channel is Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. And I do a show on Wednesday called The Secret Show with Mark Sargent. And then throughout the week, I do interviews and panel shows with various flat earthers. So thanks for having me on, by the way.
Oh, no, we're honored to have each of you here. And it's been a great discussion. And again, sorry for the technical difficulties initially, but we picked it up right off and went with it, and it's been a great show. What time are your shows with Mark Sargent, The Secret Show, and also do you have set times for your others, or just kind of when you have availability?
Well, most of the time my shows are at 3 p.m. Pacific, which is 4 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, and 11 GMT. And The Secret Show is every Wednesday, just to make it simple, 6 p.m. Eastern time. The other shows, the interview shows, are on a case-by-case basis, day-wise, but time-wise, they'll always be at that 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, and we found it interesting. I mentioned to Zen that you had done readings from 1984, and I think you started Brave New World.
Yes, I started Brave New World, but I had recently got contact lenses and the prescription wasn't right. And I have had to wait quite a while to get a new prescription back. And the new prescription is coming my way Monday. So I'm going to be starting to do readings again. It's quite hard to read a book, and in the middle, you're barely making the words out. It's not that entertaining or informative for anybody. But yeah, I'll be continuing with Brave New World. These are books that are the kind of books that we may have been forced to read when we were young. But now with our newly opened eyes, you can hear these books read or read them yourself, and you can say, aha. Exactly. I see what they're doing. Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly.
Right, just like with what Jaron brought forth with 1984 and all of the different quotations and allusions contained within it to the flat Earth and the real cosmology, and how that all is revealed within that particular book. It's pretty amazing, because now that we have eyes to see differently and we have understanding, new perspective, even for those of us that study and research the scriptures, there are so many things that are tied to the geocentric biblical cosmology which did not stand out previously, like the sun and the moon being stopped by Joshua, how he is given authority over the sun and the moon, which again affirms that those heavenly luminaries are in movement above the earth, and that it is not the earth which moves. Otherwise, Joshua would have been given the authority to stop the earth and the moon. And so just things like that come out and stand out once we have this understanding and revisit the scriptures in that manner. We've got about 7 minutes, so I'd like to give each of you like 3 minutes, about 9 minutes, about 3 minutes each for just whatever you'd like to bring up. And I know, Karlee, you wanted to talk a little bit about some of your other revelations as well, but also remember that we will invite each of you to join us again individually so we can go into greater depth as to your individual stories. Amy?
Yeah, I'd just like to encourage people that, just follow this spirit. When you first hear about flat earth and you first accept it, I know for me personally, I couldn't stop smiling. I had butterflies in my stomach and I just felt like I can't even explain it. And I know that in the beginning, like I said, I felt like the Father told me, just wait, study it up and then open your mouth because you really do want to just shout it from the rooftops because it's so life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I waited and I made my first flat earth post. I think it was Scrawny to Brawny's Proofs and Truths. It's like a 30-minute video. And I shared that and I asked people not to comment or scoff until they had actually watched the full video, for logical reasons. And it went over really well. I really thought that people were going to just think I was crazy and write me off. But so many people, open-minded people on my friends list checked it out and they all wrote me and they're thanking me saying, I did think you were a little crazy. And, and I got even people saying they unfollowed me at first and they wrote me off. But then, over time, the topic doesn't go away because, more and more people just keep waking up and then they look into it and they say, thank you for putting yourself out there. And even though, some of us will be looked at as crazy, just trust that the truth can defend itself. Be encouraged. There are many more of us out there and it's just going to continue to grow, like Karlee said. And we're a team truth. And let's just keep fighting against the deception and know that we're in this together and the truth and God are on our side.
Amen. I would also say that, there's a real family vibe, even though there are some black sheep with regard to that little family, but there is a family vibe to the Flat Earth Awakening. And we also have to realize that we're still just a very small percentage as far as those that really understand the cosmology, probably still less than 1%, but it most certainly is growing quickly. Karlee?
Well, I just wanted to put out there to the community that I want to commit to everyone that that I want to continue to extrapolate on some of my theories and keep doing the content videos and really bring out some good content so that that I am prepared for the Flat Earth Conference coming up here, and so that just getting some good content out there to help people think and get people thinking. And I always I try to encourage everyone to really enjoy their flat earth experience. I want to be there for people if they need help. I always say this, I won't necessarily hold your hand, but that's different than you coming to me and really wanting to learn and you need help being pointed in the right direction. I want to be there for you. I want to make that commitment to the community. I was told by someone, one of those black sheep that you're talking about, Zen, that I did not deserve to be going to this conference, but I want to let everyone know that because of one of those black sheep saying something like that to me, it has encouraged me and motivated me to just do better. Everyone out there, be encouraged to just do better. Be encouraged and motivated to go out and actually do these experiments, the observations, document and make theories and have fun with it. I always end my videos with enjoy your flat earth experience. And Amy and Patricia, it's been a real honor being on here with you guys. I just love hearing the stories and I can't wait to meet you both in North Carolina.
Yes, awesome. Patricia?
I do agree with what Karlee said, and I can't wait to hug you guys. That sounds so weird, but in the flesh, it'll be so great. And anybody saying that you don't deserve to be there, Karlee, needs a reality check, because that's the horrible, dark side of humanity coming out. It's an honor to be invited, but anybody who's interested in these topics could be invited. Hopefully this conference will continue for many years, and even the person who said that to you eventually could become a guest. It's not that only special people are going to be speaking. They had to pick some people to start, and these are the people that they've picked. Next year, it could be some of the same and some different people. But what I want to say is that if you do want to wake people up, like I was saying earlier, wait until you can tell they're ready. Wait until they have an open heart, and you can see by the way they live their life that they're open, and ask them if they come to you and say, what's this flat earth stuff all about? Ask them if they really, really want to know, and then take your time in showing them things. And if they start arguing and fighting, step away and say, I've given you the seed, and if you need more information, please come back to me. And if you're somewhere with friends who are not interested really in flat earth, but you see something interesting, point it out. Somebody on my Facebook page posted that they had noticed that there are talking globes in children's toy stores now. And I looked them up. There they are: Leapfrog Junior Explorer, Geo Safari Globe, Educational Insights Globe. Yes, talking globes for kids. If that is not programming at the earliest age, then what is? So if you walk by and see something like this, don't be afraid to say something out loud, like, we don't live there, or look into flat earth. I've done it before in stores where they sold globes. In Target, an American store, I just saw a guy holding a globe on the phone talking to his friend, asking whether or not it would look good in their bedroom. I said, the globe's not real. Look into flat earth. I mean, awesome. It's so the guy might not look into flat earth that moment, but after seeing 3, 4, 5 different things, hearing Obama say we don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society or whatever, or Kyrie, or even Shaq, right. although Shaq took it back, the guy might remember and think, wait, maybe I should look into that. Sowing seeds, that's what it's all about.
Yes, absolutely. Can you mention your license plate?
Oh, yes. It's a personalized license plate on my car, FLATRTH, Flat Earth. And a lot of people are getting flat earth oriented personalized license plates. And Mark Sargent makes videos and shows all of them on there. He always puts his and mine last. And I encourage you, if you're getting a new license plate, look into getting a flat earth plate or something that expresses your individuality. If we have to use cars and have to drive around, you might as well do a little seed spreading at the same time.
Yes. Absolutely. Cathy, can you make mention the Flat Earth Challenge, and also if you have any idea as to what the new dollar amount is?
I think we're fast approaching 20,000. So you can find out the information about it on our new website, which is sacredwordpublishing.net or .com. Either one will take you there. And Flat Earth Challenge, it says 8,250 right now, but I know it's almost 20,000. So all the information is there, and Zen's tying up some loose ends. So it will be a funded escrow account, I believe is what they're going to do, and totally legitimate. So there's some people that I need to get back in touch with about it, and I will be doing that as soon as I have that information. And so we're going to keep that updated. I'm going to try and send that information to Mark as well, because I know he likes to announce some of these things, and that might be one that would be kind of fun to update people. Yeah.
Awesome. And
I wanted to just add to that we're going to be exhibitors at the conference, and we have a lot of Flat Earth books. You can find them also on the Sacred Word Publishing site, and we're going to have more. And then there's Zen's books and other books that we're bringing out, sacred texts. So be sure and look at that.
Yes, and also as far as the Flat Earth Challenge, Sacred Word Publishing, we put up $5,000 as an open challenge to all the globe heads out there to prove scientifically with 2 experiments that either the Earth is moving or that there is measurable curvature. And if you can do that, you can win the money. So contact us about that. God bless all. Thank you, ladies. It was a pleasure and an honor.